Welcome to the Ministry Mix podcast, where we're bringing real conversations for the souls and strategies of ministry leaders. My name is Phil Gifford, and I'm joined already by my co-host, Richard Pope.
Double hello.
Whether you are a seasoned pastor or ministry leader or just stepping into leadership for the first time, we're here to share stories, insights, some tips to help you lead strategically while caring for your soul. In each episode, we will dive into topics that matter for your mission, your calling, and your personal growth. Richard, we're already off to a good start on this one.
We're off to a great start. We're going to talk about TV shows.
Yeah, it's great.
Today, we're going to share 7 TV shows that have impacted our ministry and our lives. And I'd love to start with this quote by Dr. Howard Gardner. He's a psychotherapist. He said, "Stories constitute the single most powerful weapon in a leader's arsenal." So I feel like you could see that we're talking about TV shows and think that's juvenile, or what does it have to do with ministry?
When they hear the TV shows, they'll know that it's juvenile.
It kind of is juvenile when you hear what we're talking about. But I want to say, I remember reading Stephen King's memoir on writing, and he said, good writers read. Mm-hmm. I think good preachers, good leaders, good teachers, man, just constantly immersing yourself in stories. And that doesn't always have to be, no offense, I love you, John Piper. That doesn't always have to be a 700-page book by John Piper. Mm-hmm. It can be a TV show, even a kid's TV show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something about learning how to communicate story, but also learning how story works.
Yeah.
And like good stories inspire us, good characters teach us. Like there's just lots of little things that TV shows, especially like long form TV shows where it's fleshed out over lots of seasons. I think it can help us if we watch them with eyes open and just paying attention to some of the leadership principles. It can be a learning experience even while you're just relaxing.
Can I say something heretical real quick?
Maybe.
Like a limited series, like Netflix.
Yeah. 6
episodes, one season. I personally believe that a good sermon is a lot less like a movie and a lot like a TV show episode, right? Like it's not the whole story, it's part of a story.
Yeah.
So when I think about, especially when we're preaching topical sermon series, I kind of think about it through the lens of like a limited series.
Yeah.
Like where do I want to land them in episode 6, episode 4, however many sermons it's going to be? How can I get there and build up to that like big moment? I don't know.
I think that's really good. Now. Like we're walking through a series on discipleship called Follow Me. And like, it seems like it's kind of, we're hitting like a couple weeks, we're hitting one idea. Next week, we're hitting another idea. Yeah. We kind of started out by looking at the definition of a discipleship. What is this? What does it mean when Jesus actually says? Like kind of understanding. But then with the last few weeks, we've really looked at the call and the weightiness of discipleship.
Wow.
But we're getting ready to move into the kind of the end of the season, if you will, is moving into like just the hope and like the transformation and all that does. So it's kind of had this weird kind of wave to it, so which is much like a TV season. You got,
I agree,
big episodes, and you got it's just good. Yeah, I lost what I was going to say. We are also just finished. We're recording this episode because we just ate so much food that we can't think straight. I can't think straight. I feel like you're about to say there's big episodes and bad episodes, and I was about to say, so you preach bad sermons. I was going to say something like mid episodes. You know how there's some filler episodes, and there's sermons. I'll be honest, there's sermons like that. I
definitely have some filler sermons.
Yeah, you're like you see a filler episode on a TV show, and you're like, that was cool. I like the characters, but it was just a filler episode. And I do think, as much as we don't like it, sometimes there are episodes that are just, or sermons or teaching times that they're not filler as they're valueless, but they definitely aren't like the homegrown memorable. And we have to be okay with that.
You got to be careful with what you're saying, because there's a Theo bro somewhere listening to this podcast. The word of God does not return empty your voice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because this is we're moving into preaching from our TV shows.
This is fine.
But that's okay. That's why we're doing this after lunch, because this is a TV show episode.
Yeah, this is a filler episode.
But I think if I were to look at a sermon series, if I were like a TV series, sermon series, sometimes you go, these are going to be the fire sermons. Like these are the ones that are going to grow my church. These are the ones that are going to grow my people. And it's not always that way. It's not often that way. Sure. It's the one that you thought like nobody would connect to.
100%.
And they're like, people's lives are changed. So I think there's certainly a God's providence and God's work that does a work through his word. But I think TV shows in general, preachers are ultimately storytellers. We're telling the story of the gospel, and we're inviting people to be a part of it. So I think watching TV can be a redemptive moment, because you're learning how to you can redeem that moment. That's not just entertainment. You can actually learn how to share the gospel and about leadership.
I agree. So what Phil and I are going to
do this.
We're going to each share. We're each going to share 3 TV shows personally, and then we'll end with a 7th show that we both put on the list that we both love. It is the most childish episode on both of our lists, I think.
Yes.
So Phil,
we'll find out.
Phil, do you want to start with yours?
Not really, but we're going to because you made fun of this. So I put on my list.
Corny.
This was the last TV show I picked because I was just trying to decide which ones have actually had a longer term impact. And A-Team, old school A-Team TV series.
Mr. T.
Was Mr. T.
Yeah.
Yep. The Colonel, all those guys. I watched it as a kid. And it was in rerun still when I was a kid, but it was like not that much of a rerun. Like it was still on and I could see it. And so, I mean, who wouldn't as like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, whatever age I was when I was watching it, love like tanks blowing up and gunfire and all the things. So I loved watching the A-Team. And something happened when my oldest child was born. So this was been 17 years ago almost. I was either on Hulu or I bought the DVDs, but when she was up in the middle of the night and I was just trying to stay awake, making sure she was okay, I was watching old seasons of the A-Team and enjoying kind of having that conversation with her, or not having that conversation, just enjoying the cheesiness of it. Cause like it was, in that moment, I couldn't watch anything serious. So I didn't want to watch something that was like going to make me cry or something that was going to make me like challenge me. I just wanted something fun and silly to be a part of my life at the moment. But I've used that phrase in church planting. They had a famous line from A-Team, which says, I love it when a good plan comes together. It was like that. Usually at some point,
I've actually heard you say that
everything's falling apart, right? Everything's falling apart. Like in the episode, like they had this plan to do this thing and the plan just goes crazy. Like nothing ever happens and they improvise and they kind of figure it out. And at the end, this Colonel pulls up a cigar and goes, I love it when a good plan comes together. Cause the irony is nothing about their plan came together, but they made it happen.
Right.
And a lot of my church planting journey, and I gotta be honest, a lot of my life has been that way. Like, here's my plan. Here's what actually happened, but we pivoted. We trusted God. We leaned into we leaned into what he was doing in the moment, not what my plan was. And so I love it when a good plan comes together. So cheesy show. I can't say I've watched A-Team since then, and I have no real desire to go back and watch it. But if we're talking about shows that shaped our lives, it was certainly something that was a part of 2 key moments in my life.
That's awesome.
So we can move on from A-Team. Aren't you glad you didn't cut that one from the list?
No. Okay. I love it when a good plan goes blah, blah, blah.
All right. Your next one.
No, I think it's interesting, Phil, how different things speak to different people. I've seen the A-Team, a few of the old episodes, and I couldn't stand it. I'll be honest with you. But I also just don't like cheese. So
you love cheese.
I'm lactose intolerant. So I'm cheesy.
Okay.
I don't like cheesy things. I'm sorry. That was so corny. That was the cheesiest thing.
We don't edit our podcast, but I might for that.
No, you're not. You're not. Hey, a show from me, which is ironic considering, terminal cancer, is House, the doctor show.
You love your medical dramas.
I love medical dramas. Listen, this list could have been House, The Resident, Grey's Anatomy, and Scrubs, but I decided to diversify my assets some. It's like my financial advisor. Don't only invest in Nike, Richard. No, so here's why I love House, though. When you watch that show, there's a couple things. One, House is completely unqualified to do what he does as a doctor, except for the fact that he's good at it. Like, he doesn't have bedside manner. He's quirky. He doesn't really play well with others. And this might be a weird application to pastoring, but there's times where, like, for me, I struggle, my church knows this, I struggle with, like, the holding your hand bedside thing. So watching a show like House kind of in a way encourages my arrogance. I'm like, it's okay that I'm bad at this. I'm kidding. No, actually, what I love about that show.
So I'm holding my tongue so well for a post-lunch podcast.
Yeah. We ate these cheesecake egg rolls. They were so good, but wow.
We don't feel good.
Yeah. It's cheesy. No, but what I love about House is every episode there's a new problem to solve. What I love about the show is really more about House, the character's approach. He always gets down to the root. So like you'll see, when there's a problem, he'll send his doctors to like go investigate the person's apartment, and he'll do every test possible. And I think oftentimes in ministry leadership, and this sounds kind of corny, but like that's necessary. Like, hey, let's get to the root. I was just talking to someone in our church the other day, and they're going through a tough time, and they are struggling in their walk with God. And it'd be easy to say, do these things. Like, it'd be easy to prescribe them, like, read your Bible, pray.
Yeah.
But instead, I tell them read their Bible and pray. But it's also like, hey, what was your home life like? Mm-hmm. You're like going deeper. And I learned that from that show. So you say what you want about my grumpy old doctor.
Well, you just got to ask. I think just learning to ask questions and like look for causes. Every ministry leader has to diagnose what comes on the surface.
Yeah.
Hey, this person is struggling in my ministry area. And so you ask yourself, why are they still? You're getting frustrated, right? You're like, I think I need to let this guy go because they're not showing up on time, or they're not doing their lesson, or they're whatever. But pausing to say what is actually happening and like what's going on in your life. Maybe there's a marriage struggle. Maybe there's a financial struggle. Maybe there's a medical. Like, you get the idea, right? So like, I think just taking that time to understand what's really going on is a great lesson from that show.
Something Hal says.
I also love his humor. Like it cracks me up.
Dry.
It's who I want to be if I didn't have Jesus, probably.
Yeah.
Like,
if I was cool and not a Christian.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not cool and I'm a Christian.
Yeah. I'm not that smart.
No, we're not that smart. I also am not addicted to prescription pain pills. Like, I just want to clarify.
Just to be clear on this podcast.
No, but one of the things Hal says is if you only treat the symptom, the patient still dies. And I think there's tons of gospel application to that.
How many people are coming to church treating a symptom, but they actually don't know Jesus?
100%.
And so,
100%.
Man, that's worth the podcast right there.
Yeah.
That was
10
good.
things we learned from a pain pill addicted fictional doctor with a cane.
Well,
Yeah.
that was not the title of this episode.
No. 7 TV shows that.
All right, what is next? So this is going to be nerdy. You ready for a nerd? I mean, I went to the A-team, but I don't.
I love this show.
It's not going uphill from here. So growing up, I was in a pastor's home. We've talked about that in the podcast, and lots of part of our story. So we had traditional Sunday evening church, like where you went back to church and had a whole separate service. And so when that church when that service would end, my parents always ordered pizza and let us drink soda in the living room, and we watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. And so every Sunday night we would log. You're having a hard time not laughing at me, and you're.
I'm just listening, bro.
You can judge me all you want. I mentioned Stephen Chris Chapman on our songs, like. I don't care if you think less
to be
than
fair, I can't say much because my wife loves Star Trek.
Okay, there we go. I knew Peyton was awesome for something else than marrying you, I guess.
Her charity work.
So Star Trek, obviously, kind of a nerd level stuff. I don't just like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I liked every Star Trek. I love sci-fi. Period. Let's be fair. It's like I want to admit this. And if I had to pick between Star Wars and Star Trek, this is how nerdy I am. If I had to pick between Star Wars and Star Trek, one goes. It would be Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but I'm a Star Trek guy all the way. I'm not like a speak Klingon and going to a convention kind of Star Trek guy, but I just like the stories and the sci-fi. So with that said, that was a fun season of my life, getting the special privilege of drinking soda in the living room, eating pizza, and watching Star Trek. And so, what I like about Star Trek, I think it gives me a couple good takeaways. Like I think you can learn a lot about some of the leadership, obviously, from watching the fictional situations. They always have a posture of optimism toward the world, which I think is both in some ways opposite of where the Bible says the world is going to go. Like the picture of Star Trek as a whole is we're going to eventually work out our problems, and we're going to get this utopian sort of society where everyone just loves each other, works for free, and all your needs are met. It honestly is a picture of where we believe creation is heading without Jesus. So there's a lot of anti-theology pictures in there that are helpful to have a conversation about. It's like, hey, do you think society is going to go to this blissful place where we just explore and work for free and everybody loves each other? And the answer most people would say is no. Like, I think my doctrine of depravity doesn't allow for that. So I think there's a good reflection there, but just usually how they deal with conflict. It's, it's listening, it's negotiation. Normally there's a solution that doesn't require blowing something up. Yeah. And so, especially with Captain Picard, kind of like, he's always like, let's ask questions and blow it up later. So yeah, I'm going to stop with the nerd here, but,
I'm
but learning. I think, are you learning? And so, yes, certainly a show that has shaped my childhood. And, but I'm also like, it's been a while since I've watched Star Trek, just to be fair.
He literally watched it this morning.
I did not.
You got cereal, sat in your boxers, and watched Star Trek on your couch, didn't you?
When no. But like when I was in middle school. I was like older elementary school. my mom made a Star Trek uniforms, and so at one point I went as a Halloween. I went as a Star Trek character. So just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, guys. The next thing we're going to talk about.
How many podcast subscribers did we just lose?
Right
did we just lose? Okay, give us to a cooler show, Richard.
No, it's not necessarily cooler. It's actually kind of like everyone likes this show. It's like popular now is Friends, the sitcom. Mm-hmm. I love that show. Partly because I remember I had a lot of health issues growing up. Well, that never changed.
I have a lot of health issues, period.
Yeah. And man, I loved watching Friends on Nick at Night. It started airing on, 9 o'clock, Nickelodeon, SpongeBob goes off.
Yeah.
Let me stop putting my watch on the table because I keep hearing that in the headset. And then, the grown-up shows come on, so to speak. Well, that was so loud every step of that, taking my watch off. What I love about that show is it shows 20-somethings, young 30-somethings, just living life in like a comical way. What's ironic is now I pastor a church, and Phil, you know this. Our listeners probably by now know this. My church is mostly 20-somethings and young 30-somethings. So it's like I oftentimes will just be pastoring my church, and I'm like, oh, I remember when this happened to Ross.
This is a Friends episode.
Yeah, this happened to Monica. Yeah, and I think one, I love the idea of community in your 20s. The characters are so different, right? You have an actor, you have a dinosaur scientist. I can't remember what that's called.
Paleontologist,
something like that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I almost said foot doctor, but you have a musician who doesn't even know chords. I don't know if you remember. We both play guitar. Phoebe, I don't know if you ever saw it. She was trying to teach another character how to play guitar, and she's like,
I've seen clips from Friends, but I don't think I've ever watched a whole episode.
But she's like, you don't need to learn the chords. You just have to put your fingers in the right place, which is chords. Which was just like she doesn't know the names for them. She just figures it out. Yeah, like you have these people who are so different. And they're really bound together by circumstantial things.
Yeah.
A coffee shop, living together as roommates. I think in the gospel, we're bound together by something that's like doesn't have to be circumstantial. And that's Jesus. So pastoring a church with 20-somethings and 30-somethings, I love it. I love it.
The one about the couch, so the one about the move, the one about the whatever.
So I'm actually preaching a sermon series soon called Friends.
Okay.
And that's how we're doing the episode.
You can have the themes.
The one about the, yeah.
Oh, you can't. Can you say that on the podcast? Well, this one's not going to drop till probably you're done with that series. We'll see.
I don't. My people don't listen to this podcast. My people are too cool to listen to our nerdy podcast
about Star Trek and A-Team.
My pastor's literally a nerd.
My people are nerdy enough to listen to this, so I'm just kidding. We love our team. So, hey, I'm going to go to mine, right? Before I get in trouble.
It's your last one before our shared one.
Oh, is this our last one? Okay.
Before our shared one.
So I want to put a little caveat on this one. This show is probably not for everybody. There's definitely some language and some episode scenes I wouldn't appreciate. But
you like that's a disclaimer you have to say.
You have to say it, right? Every time I use this show as an illustration, I feel like I had that. But one of our favorite shows that I watched recently was Ted Lasso. Have you seen Ted Lasso before?
I have.
Okay. It's not on your list, though.
I like it.
Really?
I think it's stupid.
It is stupid.
Yeah. We have very different TV tastes.
Yeah, we do. That's impressive. It's an impressively different list. But in my defense, like you have Friends on there, so I don't feel like it's all that much different. Like,
At least neither of us have The Office. Losers.
I like The Office, but I wouldn't put it on my list.
Shut up. The Office.
I like The Office for memes, not necessarily for actually watching.
Sure.
Anyway.
Explain Ted Lasso.
All right. So Ted Lasso, obviously, if you've not seen the show, it's about a football coach who goes to actually coach soccer and has just a weird coaching philosophy. And for me, it was just a fun show. I enjoyed it. I
didn't learn anything. It was
I like
fun.
I like soccer. I've coached a rec team. I've coached a lot in rec leagues and stuff. And so I get a lot of that stuff. But there was some moments of that show. There were some episodes I'm like, that was a waste of time. But there were some moments where you're like, this is a massively good lesson for my life. On my back of my laptop, there's a sticker that says, "Be curious, not judgmental." And there was a scene, so if you haven't seen this, kind of spoiler, but there's a scene where Ted Lasso is kind of gambling over the rights to the team or the ownership of the team by playing darts. And he brings up this conversation with the guy who's kind of being aggressive with him and says, "Hey, all my life people have judged me. They've said these things about me. They've just assumed these things about me." When so it used to really bug me because I just like they don't value me, and then I just realized. It's not so much that they don't value me. It's just they're not curious enough. If they were curious, they would ask questions. If they wanted to know, they would explore who I am. And then he went and won in darts. But to me, I think it's I think it's a good lesson. So be curious, not judgmental, is actually like a really good way to deal with people in your life. It's like, that's a posture I want to have in all of my relationships especially with the people in our church, but just also out there, is that I want to have a posture toward curiosity. Why do you think that way? Even when I see something that I disagree with or an action that I don't like, I want to be curious about what drove that. What was the reasoning? What's your story? So I think that to me, that whole mentality was really good. That was fleshed out throughout the whole series. I think also just he coached and led from a place of optimism and joy. Just believe was kind of the theme. And so I just appreciated that. And Pam and I would watch them like for a date. So the kids were at school, we would eat lunch and watch an episode for our lunch break. So it was kind of like a fun moment for our family, or for her and I too. So that was a fun TV show for me.
My last one, also disclaimer, but I'm only going to give one instead of 80.
Ooh, I like the show.
Yeah, there's some things in the show that are like a little violent. You could say gore. There's definitely some inappropriate things, but
you just said that, friends. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, friends.
Gore.
Listen, I just didn't. It didn't cause me to stumble, so I watched it.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a good filter. It's like, that's actually a good, like, pause for a second.
That's an episode.
That's an episode, because what could cause you to stumble might not cause the next person to
100%.
stumble, and we have to walk that carefully.
Yeah, you have to parent yourself.
Really?
Yeah.
As big boy Christians.
Yeah. Only babies rely on someone else to take care of them and feed them.
Dang.
All
Okay.
right, that's another.
That's definitely an next
I
episode.
said it to my church on Sunday too. The Walking Dead. Man, what I love about this show is not like, I'm not obsessed with zombies. I'm not super into like, like the revolving cast of characters isn't really what gets me, because like the main characters left the show.
Yeah.
And I still like it. Mm-hmm. It's this question of, what would you do? Mm-hmm. Right? I actually ask you those questions all the time. What would you do? Right? Like, if someone offered you $100 billion, would you blank? Or things like that. But what I love about this show is, man, like, I think it takes an honest look.
Depravity,
not just that,
survival,
man. What do you
family.
do? What do you do when the human next to you is more monstrous than the zombie around you? And that's the whole show.
Yeah.
Like, the whole show, I mean, maybe the first 3 episodes.
Zombies are the bad guys.
But then after that, there's always a big bad. And then you find out the big bad, there's a story there. Like, I won't spoiler too about there's a character named Negan, and he famously beat people's heads in with a baseball bat. And he was like the darkest, twisted, sickest character. Mm-hmm. You find out that all started because his wife died. Yeah. And he's like deranged. And he calls, like, his bat's name is Lucille, and that's his wife's name. And like there's a reason, something made him like that.
It's a psychological show. Like, it teaches you about psychology.
Like, I don't like it for the gore. I don't like it for the zombies. I think zombies are kind of corny. I like it because it's like, man, I think The Walking Dead takes an honest look at how dark our world actually is. For my Theo bros on, in our listener base, I would say, you want to talk about like total depravity, bro.
Well, I mentioned Star Trek and how, like, the whole view is that
We just went from a cool show to a nerdy show.
Okay, well, just deal with me on the pivot here. Star Trek is like, hey, the world is just going to get better, and we're going to all love each other eventually. Like, the world is moving toward a good place.
Openly hopeful, yeah.
Walking Dead is like, if we take away food and electricity, you will kill each other for it.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like that's probably closer to what the Bible says about humanity.
Yeah.
Than, I mean, you look at all the examples of, like, when Israel was being invaded and they had no food, like, the sick things that they were doing to survive is far more like The Walking Dead than Star Trek.
I would even say, one of the themes of the show, I almost think, has a biblical precedent. You find a promised land, the promised land gets ruined by people. That's the theme. They always find a new place. It's a farmhouse. It's a prison. After a prison, it's a
gated community. Yeah.
Yeah. And every time they find one, so there's literally this like this whole arc in the show. It's like, we're looking for somewhere. We're longing. We're fighting it out in the woods.
For a safe place.
They find a safe place. People destroy it. I'm actually quoting that show, referencing it in a sermon on Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Hevel, it's temporary. Vanity, it's temporary. Anything man-made won't last. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
Have you finished watching the newest, The Ones Who Lived?
La 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 la.
Because I have.
Don't tell me anything.
Oh, why not?
Because I was busy merging churches, bro. I don't have time to watch TV shows.
I binged it in like half a day.
Good?
So obviously, Walking Dead's got some slow seasons.
Yeah.
It's definitely different, but it's better than the bad seasons of Walking Dead.
Okay.
So I will not say anything else.
There's not a bad season of Walking Dead, but we'll just.
No, there's some that are like,
gonna move past that.
what
No,
just
no.
happened? We've been walking for 16 episodes. Where are we going, bro? That's kind of
Okay,
like,
how about that one time when Rick thought his son was. Never mind.
all right, we're moving on.
He bit out a guy's jugular.
We cannot,
Hey, there's one show that me and Phil both put on the list. Hard pivot. I don't know how to.
I don't want to have to filter this podcast.
When I don't know how to transition, I just
Hard pivot.
Even when I'm preaching, I'm just like, we're done talking now. We talk about this now. Phil, you want to say it? I'll drum roll.
Sure. Our favorite. I don't even know if you drum rolls. I want to filter that drum roll.
This is a long
Avatar.
drum roll.
Avatar.
The
Last Airbender. Yep.
Not the Korra one. That show sucks.
Hey, they're making a new one.
It's gonna suck too, probably.
Okay, but the Avatar, the Last Airbender,
Secret Tunnel. Secret Tunnel.
if Brad is listening to this podcast, he hates that song.
Through the mountain.
So I'll tell you why I love Avatar. And I think yours is probably cooler. We watched Avatar as a family.
Yeah.
One of our mentors, who's not a pastor anymore, told me to watch it for years. He's like, "You're gonna love it," and so it took COVID to get me to pause and then have time. Like I don't watch one anime whatever thing it was.
Especially as an adult. I get that.
I was like, no thanks. He's like, no, dude, you'll love it. And so during COVID, what else are you gonna do? We put it on. And we would watch like a couple episodes a night as a family, and like we just watched our way through it. And it was like actually like one of my favorite parts about COVID was like we were so wrapped up in the story. The kids were like, let's do one more episode, and then we were just, and then of course Hannah was like running around water bending everything.
I am the one true Avatar, master of all four elements.
So yeah, but I also just I liked the series because it really. I think it talked. My favorite part about Avatar, and they lost this when the Netflix series redid it. Mm-hmm. The balance of humor and seriousness. Mm-hmm. Like it was a funny show,
but there was some heavy.
But it was heavy, and they seemed to really well weave through.
Dude, like Aang legit had PTSD.
Yeah,
and then they're like, my cabbages, like in one episode.
But isn't that more like pastoral ministry than
it's like life? Yeah,
we're like you're just laughing. We have a friendship like that. But Ecclesiastes, you're preaching on Ecclesiastes. There's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Like I feel like they interweaved the emotional responses that were so good.
Yeah,
so
good.
I love that about that show, and it was just fun.
Yeah. Phil, you said it was your favorite show of all time.
It is. It's literally my favorite show of all time. It's because it checks all the boxes for me. Like, if I had to pick just one, that's my favorite.
I have a few that I would probably say tie for my favorite, but it's there. It's one of them.
You can't tie. It's cheating.
Dude, you literally just said Star Trek. I don't think you should. You're in a place to be talking about what's okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go back to. We're gonna put Phil back in his closet.
Go back in your Star Trek uniform. Go.
Yeah. Our new building at Canvas has a Harry Potter room. It's under a stairwell. I bet a lock Phil in there.
All right.
No supper for you. For me, so I love Avatar. It came out in 2005. I think was the first season. I was 8 years old, so I watched it as a kid, which probably a little different than you feel watching as an adult. Man, all the things boys love, adventure. But what I really remember liking about it, and I don't think I had the words back then, but I do now, is coming out of some dysfunction, some trauma, sexual assault, like all those things in my past. Not to make this unserious episode too serious, but I often felt like I was walking and living in a world that wasn't created for me. Which Aang, if you know the base of the story, one episode, this isn't a spoiler, he's locked in an iceberg for 100 years. So it's like he comes out and he's like trying to be a kid and also grow up and also learn and also survive and also fight bad guys, all while living in a world that isn't his. And I just resonated with that idea. Like, man, I remember talking to a counselor when I was actually like 10, 11 years old, and I loved that show. And they liked the show, which was kind of cool. They're probably a weirdo like Phil watching it as an adult. I'm kidding. But
with my kids.
Yeah. It makes it way less weird when you add that. But I remember they said something to the tune of, because they liked the show and it just came up. And it was like Aang didn't live angry that he was in the wrong world. He just figured out how to make that world better. And that idea resonated with me, man. So I was like, I don't know. That's why I like that show. I think it's a decent reason to make that a favorite show.
I really think, and it checks all the boxes. I mean, you just think about how much stuff that show can help you think through in a healthy way. So
race relations,
Yep.
nationalism. There's some deep. I mean, seriously, there's some deep like concepts in that show. If you've never watched it, can I just challenge you to go watch all the episodes like,
tonight.
Yeah, just
was it 4 seasons?
three.
Yeah. Oh,
Only three.
That's
Three.
right. 3.
It's like only like 50 episodes.
Yeah, it's not
45.
long.
Yeah. Korra's not great. You could skip that. It's basically just a crappy version of Avatar in a sci-fi world. All right.
Yeah. But anyways, so hey, the whole point of this podcast.
We're not sure what it is right now.
No, the point is, we want to be the kind of ministry leaders and leaders that are looking for learning and truths where we can find, right? Like,
Yeah.
the things that we're doing that you would think watching Avatar would not have like a deep impact, but like there's some pretty pivotal statements that you've said. So, ministry leader, hey, do a favor. If you're listening to this and you're on our social media, you're following us on social media, tell us your favorite show and something you learned from it, and let us know so we can see all the other shows that everybody likes. But thanks for listening. I hope you get to know us a little bit better, our diverse backgrounds and personalities. But let's even the stuff we watch can impact our leadership. So. Thanks for tuning in to the Ministry Mix podcast. I hope this conversation has been helpful for you and your leadership. And so, one last thing, we've already said this before. If you can share,
Secret
and
tunnel.
we're not there yet. Share this episode with some friends that could be encouraged by it, that love Star Trek and A-Team and all the things.
Review it.
Absolutely, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. This helps get this podcast. That helps get this podcast to other ministry leaders. I'm done with this ending episode.
My cabbages!
See you next time.